Hello and welcome to another Openshift tutorial. In this video, we want to see how to install Knative serverless platform on top of Openshift. This video is not essentially about what is Knative. This mostly covers on how to install Knative and then use it. With that, let's get started. I have some small notes here in the GitHub README. You can see the link here. These are taken from the official Knative documents, so there is no need to panic. You can always go back to these official notes to get the latest commands. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to run these commands here. These commands are basically SCC exceptions that you need to give for Knative service accounts. If you don't know what SCCs are, please go back and refer to my previous videos. In this, what we're doing is basically providing a build controller service account in the namespace Knative build, a permission called anyUID. So this service account can run pods with any user ID. So that is the meaning of this command. And then also similarly, there is a cluster administrator privilege for a different for a service account called build controller and also controller, which are inside these namespaces. So pretty simple. If you don't know, you can go back and then read what SCCs are. For that, I need to first run these commands as a cluster administrator. So I logged in as cluster administrator and executed all these commands. So the permissions are set up now. The next step is to install Knative itself. Knative installation is pretty simple. The only prerequisites here is running Istio cluster on top of your OpenShift. So in my OpenShift installation, Istio is already running. If you would like to see how you want to install Istio, please refer to my previous video. I will put a link in the description. With that, assuming you have installed Istio already, I'm going to execute this command. What it does is basically go to this release YAML file and then replace load balancer with node port and then does the OC apply. Pretty simple. Just run this command. And you can see Knative installation is going on. You will see this error sometimes. That may be because some of the previous systems are not running. Just do it one more time. I don't know that I found that hack. Okay. Once you have those, you can go back to the OpenShift cluster and then look for Knative filter. And then you can see 3 projects got created: build, monitoring, and serving. And this one is important. You can see my Knative cluster is already up and running because I've done some installations and pre-pulled the images already, so it's pretty fast. You may need to wait for a few minutes. And then similarly, monitoring as well. You might see this node exporter in Grafana are not coming up. It's okay. It will still run. And then build also, my pods are up. All right, so my Knative installation is complete on top of OpenShift. Let's go deploy some applications. So I'm going to create an application, create a project called Knative test, in which I'm going to deploy my serverless workloads. Okay. There is a one-time setup you need to do with respect to OpenShift. OpenShift is slightly strict on the security. So the default containers that you're going to spun up, they will have a sidecar container which requires changing some IP table rules on the host, which OpenShift blocks by default. That is why you need to add an exception. The first exception is mostly adding privileged SCC to the default service account. But this is not enough. Even the privileged service account is missing some Linux capabilities, that is netadmin. So you need to add this netadmin capability to the privileged service account and then provide default service account with the privileged SCC. It may be slightly confusing. You can go back to the documentation and refer. It is a pretty straightforward one-time activity you need to do. There's not much to worry about. So I'm going to copy these commands and then run them. That's it. So this is one-time activity for each project. You don't need to do for every application that you deploy. And the next thing is for Knative workloads to be accessed over a URL, you need to have a domain setup. For this, you can do it in two ways. You can use KNCTL, which is not an official project from Knative, but I found it useful. You can go to GitHub and then find KNCTL, or I can just go edit this config map and then add the entry there. So I'm going to show you the official way. So you can see the example.com. You can replace that example.com with the value that you have. So my cluster wildcard domain is apps dot this piece. So I took this and added apps in front. Generally, people put apps, but if you have something else, you need to put that here. So with that, I just save this. Now the base URL is set. Let's go and deploy the application now. Ignore this. I'm going to deploy an application called Hello World Go onto Knative. So I took this. I'm going to put it in a YAML file and then apply from command line. I tried to apply it from UI, but I was seeing some issues. Maybe you will see similar issues. So if I go and apply from here, generally it should work. Because these are CRDs, it is not working for me. So what I did is go to CLI and then from there I created a file. I've already pre-created this file, Knative example.yaml. I'm going to apply that file now. Okay, so it is going to create a service of type Knative serving, not typical Kubernetes service. It is a service of type Knative. And then this is the image that it is going to use. Okay, when you apply, you can see a workload is getting deployed. Okay. If this is not coming up, you can go to click on monitoring and then click on view details. So this is something I found interesting. By default, if you have a namespace level limits, the container workloads are not getting deployed because containers, these Knative workloads will have some kind of init container as well, and those are not having any limits by default. So I had to go explicitly set those limits or take out limits as a whole. So I'm just taking out for now on this namespace, so it can go through that. Okay, so I took out the limits. Just to speed up the process, I'm going to scale it down and scale it up. This is only one-time activity. Again, you need to do for namespace. If you have any limits there, just because these init containers doesn't have any limits specified, it is basically complaining that there are no limits specified in this. I think that is the issue. I have not gone deeper into that. Just from outside, that is what I observed. So my application container, the serverless container, is now deployed. If this container is not used for 2 minutes, it is going to scale down to 0. Where is that setting? The setting is in Knative serving, and then resources, config map, and then somewhere in the autoscaler. So this is the setting. Scale to 0 grace period is 2 minutes. So if it is not used in 2 minutes, it is going to scale down. So let's go back and then set a route to this serverless workload. Okay. There are a few options here. Either you can say curl -h and then host. You can put the entire URL here and say the user the project is knative test.svc.cluster.local and then point it to the ingress URL. Okay, which there are many examples out there. I don't want to do that again here. but I'll show you what you need to do with respect to OpenShift. So with OpenShift, we have two choices here. So the first one is this is my cluster. There is a HA proxy sitting here, and there is a Istio ingress sitting here. And then in your cloud Kubernetes environment, it might be something else as your ingress point. Okay, so most of the people are not using Istio as the ingress right away, right now. Maybe in future, Istio will become the default ingress. I'm hoping for that. But as of now, you will have some kind of ingress already set up. So the only way to get into this workload is to go through that ingress. In this case, for OpenShift, it might be HA proxy, and then a wildcard is already set up for this HA proxy, and then you can make a request here, and then that request goes through all the way to the uh, container workload. The other way is you can directly run this Istio ingress on host port 80, and then create a whatever domain name you want, a wildcard domain, and then point it directly here. So this is a dotted one. Okay. Though it's pretty simple. All you need to do is go to Istio system, go to Knative ingress. So Knative ingress deployment, and then in actions, edit YAML. And then in this section, the container port 80 is there, and then you can map the container port 80 to host port 80. So that way, wherever this Istio ingress pod is running, that host port 80 is opened up for the outside world. Okay. This is something you can do when you want to avoid this extra hop of HA proxy. So I'm not going from HA proxy to Istio ingress, but directly going from the outside world to the Istio ingress. So if you want to do that, all you need to do is go to deployment configuration, change the host port, and then directly point your workloads there. But for a simple test case, for simple use cases like testing, I don't want to do that. I will show you the easiest way. But in production, then you don't want to do that. And maybe for testing purposes, you can have this extra hop here. So how do I set up this extra hop here? Okay. So basically, what we're doing here is we are creating another route. This can be our Knative test route. And then in that Knative test route, we are pointing it to the same HA proxy here, but the service will be Istio ingress service. And this will be a wildcard subdomain. So just remember, this is a wildcard subdomain at the cluster level. This one, second one, but let me pull it a little bit out here. So this one is cluster level sub wildcard, and this one is a route level wildcard. So this in OpenShift, you can have a route level wildcard as well. Okay, so if you have some workloads in a project, for that particular project, you can create another wildcard on top of your existing wildcard. I think that is a nice feature. Using that, we are going to create a wildcard just for the Knative test namespace, and then from there we can use the Knative. You can access those Knative workloads. Okay, so let me show you how I've done it. I'm creating a route, and then the route name is, you can put anything here, but this is sitting inside Istio system namespace, and you need to put it. It won't accept star as the wildcard, so you need to use this word called wildcard. Wildcard. So it's a keyword. Whenever you put wildcard as a keyword, it understands that it is a wildcard, like a star, and then whatever whatever traffic that you get will be sent to the service that you mentioned. So in this, you can mention wildcard address, and then that all traffic will come to the Knative ingress. Okay, 100% of it. And then we are targeting port 80 only. So in our case, the endpoint is this knative test apps. So I'm going to change that here. Okay, and that's it. So whatever traffic that you send to this address will be sent to the knative ingress. Okay, so you can do a quick dig on top of it. So you can say abc dot knative dot test. It will go to the istio ingress. Uh, there is one more step I forgot to tell. Uh, by default, OpenShift doesn't allow these wildcard subdomains. There is one simple step that you need to do for setting up the wildcard uh, subdomains. To set up the wildcard subdomains, you need to restart the router using this environment variable called router allowed wildcard routes equal to true. Okay, this is one command you can execute and then you will be ready. Again, this is again one-time setup. You don't need to do every time. You can get away with all of these and then use the host name in the header, but I think it was not useful. That is why I took the pain of explaining you all this stuff. So if I do a dig here, now it goes to the node uh, infrastructure node. Okay, and next, what we're going to do is basically deploy the workload. We have already done it. When then, if you look at the routes, it is automatically set up. So if you do a hello world go slash hello world go dot the namespace, which is nothing but knative test, which is this, and then the default address, it will go back to the correct uh, serverless workload. So let's do that. Let's do. Currently, you can see the pod got scaled down because no one is using it. But if someone starts using it, it will scale up. So you're saying hello world go one. I think that's the service name. I don't know why I put go one there, and then the base name here. Okay. Um, I have to check what is the base name I have set. I think if I set up this one, it should work. Let's go and do a quick check. Okay, so I did some mistake in the base name setup. This one is good. So if you would like to see what is the name of the service, you can just use this command to see what name it gave. So we can do external name is this. So this is a command. Do OC get routes, OC get route serving knative dev. It will show you the exact URL where the application is listening. So this is the URL where the application is listening. Into test apps. If I do this, it should work, but it is not working. So let's go and debug. So go to Istio system and then see if the wildcard route is accepted or not. So the wildcard route is accepted. It is sitting on, okay, the name is incorrect here. So my example is, so this one should be, oh, maybe I didn't apply this yet. Now it is Knative test. Before it was only Knative. You can see this is the first request is waiting, and then if I go back to the Knative test, the pod is getting booted up, right? So it became one instance, and then you can see you're receiving an response here. The first request takes some time for it to come up, but the subsequent requests are pretty fast. Okay, so that's the background. Just to recap, what you need to do with respect to routes. I think I need to recap that so it is more clear. So you created a workload, and the name of the workload is Hello World Go 1, which is here. Sorry for taking it to multiple places. So Hello World Go 1 here. And then once you have the workload created, the other thing that we have done is set the router into allowing wildcard subdomains. So the simple way to allow your wildcard subdomains is setting up this environment variable on the router and then restarting it. So when you set up the environment variable, it will automatically restart it. And then the next step is to create a wildcard route that will point to your Istio ingress. And this wildcard route is a subdomain wildcard. Okay. And then where you need to point it, you need to point it to the subdomain of where your workloads are getting deployed. And then wildcard here is basically a keyword for Openshift to know that it is a star. Okay? It's a truly wildcard. And then the wildcard policy is subdomain here. So once you set up this, you can access any workload inside this particular project using its name. So your project name till the end, and then your workload name. If you do that, it will be able to go talk to that application. So this is more of a one-time setup you need to do. And then from next time when you deploy applications, so let's say I will change the workload name here to Namaste. Okay. So this is another workload I'm going to deploy. So this has been deployed. Now, how do I access it? Because you have already done the setup, all you need to do is go change this name to Namaste. Okay, and this should be ready. Let's go take a quick look here. It is already come up. Even if it is not come up, when you hit this, it will start spinning up the container. So you can see that without changing much, I was able to deploy the second workload. If you have any questions related to the setup, feel free to reach me out on this handle. I'll be glad to help you. That's all I have. Thank you very much.